the thing that I was really interested in yesterday, and it's the magic of that league, Stugotz, because what I'm about to say is kind of amazing because they ratchet up the stakes and people get more and more interested halfway through a season where there are a lot of broken teams, a lot of broken players, a lot of broken quarterbacks. Scott Hansen was screaming during the witching hour because of the excitement of Josh Dobbs and Baker Mayfield and C.J. Stroud and Heineke. So a couple of backup quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud made 6 throws in that game where you're just like, oh, immediately, star.
Yep.
It's going to be a star for 10 years. If you didn't know it, watching him play the best game I've seen a college player other than Vince Young play in college when he was at Ohio State. This kid is going to be good, obviously, for 10 years because he's super calm and he's playing the position with a proficiency that's crazy.
He has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception.
He's learned the position, and you trust him to make incredible throws. He made 6 of them and then wins the game at the end. But Hansen is screaming, and it's just a bunch of teams trying to get to 4-4. And it's Josh Dobbs, the third quarterback of the Vikings, because K.J. Osborne has been broken in half. Red Zone Channel has to leave, saying we're not going to show that replay. And whoever was the quarterback before Dobbs, Hall?
Yep.
Jaron Hall breaks at the goal line physically, like his left spasming on the field, unconscious. They take him off, and he's done. And then Dobbs brings back a team.
Don't forget Cam Akers torn Achilles in there, too.
Dobbs doesn't know the names of his teammates. He's making up the plays in the huddle, and it's the most Falcons thing ever to lose to that.
It was the perfect combination of quarterbacks for that witching hour. And I know that you said it feels ridiculous because it's a bunch of teams trying to level up at 4-4 this season, but that witching hour, I think, will resonate and maybe remembered for a while because there was more to it than just teams trying to get 4-4. I think C.J. Stroud became a superstar within that witching hour window.
It was a really amazing watching what Josh Dobbs was able to do after getting traded, not getting any practice reps with the starters for the Vikings. All these videos coming out of him, like, learning the snap cadence on the sideline before the game, practicing taking snaps for the first time right before he went in. He didn't know any of the plays. He was asking the players in the huddle, apparently, like, what do I have over here? Jordan Addison said after the game. It was just like totally remarkable for someone who's been on so many NFL teams just in the last 2 years alone, been a practice player for a while, been a backup for a while. And then you think on the other side, what must Falcons fans feel today losing to that?
It might not even be top 5 worst things with the Falcons. They've got such a long list of them. But Stugotz, what she's saying is so Dobbs has played for 5 teams since week 15 of last year. Since week 15, and I think I told Mike this last week, I think he's got more 20-plus yard runs than any quarterback in the sport.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
He had 2 of the greatest scrambles you'll ever see in your life yesterday. He did do that.
He's got that special quality about him that if you're betting on a Josh Dobbs team,
yes,
you're happy with where you're at. Like there's a back door that's wide open for Josh Dobbs that he's going to walk right on through.
Regardless.
He's right about that, Dan, because I bet that game. I had the Falcons thinking I was betting against Jalen Hall, whatever his name is, and then all of a sudden I'm betting against Josh Dobbs, and no one wants to bet against Josh Dobbs. Nobody.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, when you get back from dapping up the commissioner at Le Batard Show. Does anyone want to? What's the bet? Does anyone want to bet? Does anyone dare to bet against Josh Dobbs?
Don't do it.
He was like an aerospace engineering major at Tennessee. Like he's very smart. Like he could be working for NASA right now, and instead he's like kept playing in the NFL. And now I'm just happy for him. He got a bit of a payoff yesterday coming in after being traded and winning. I know he won a game with the Cardinals earlier this season as a starter, but I was very happy to see him get some credit for putting together what must have been impossible circumstances as a quarterback.
The Cardinals miss him terribly, Stugotz. This is obviously happening in the league where you've got the Cardinals had 50 yards yesterday. Totally incompetent. The Browns have what is obviously a championship defense. They got a lot of guaranteed money in a quarter. It was 50 yards.
I know.
Isn't it hilarious that Deshaun Watson's shoulder only feels good against the Titans and Cardinals? It's like, who are we playing?
So they're
cool.
They're close.
I'm good.
They're
Shoulder's
close.
good,
They're
coach.
close to being in the second tier. They're so close. If they'd won at Seattle, they'd be in the second tier. But then Baltimore knocks down Detroit and Seattle, where they're like, you're okay, but just steamrolls them. And Lamar Jackson, who was going to be traded last offseason, is the MVP of the league again and is playing more amazing than he ever has. And they lost to the Colts. When people say Dolphins beat a good team, the Dolphins didn't lose to whatever the equivalent of the Colts is. They haven't yet. The Dolphins could be 4-5. They could be. Like that, they're
not. They're 6-3, and everyone's getting on them today, and I don't care because I'm telling you right now. Look at that schedule. Yes. The Dolphins will be 11-3.
Yes, or something like that. They
something
might
close
lose to
that.
the Jets,
yes.
whatever. But they're not going to be any good teams coming up either. So this conversation will continue.
Where would the 4-5 be if they would have lost to the Chargers and the Patriots?
Yeah, like whatever. If they'd lost to the Chargers and if the Patriots, you remember that last play where you're going a yard one way or the other, Belichick goes for 2, whatever. I'm just saying a couple of things happen in one of these stupid games.
Because they have a lot of blowouts, too. Like, it's not like all their wins are one score.
If Denver scored 71.
There you go.
Right,
that's what it was.
I don't doubt that the Dolphins are good. That it's an achievement to get to 6-3 when you've been this injured. But Stugotz, I do think this part is fair. When this magnificent offense, greatest show on surf, when it has played against the Bills, it scored 20. When it played against the Eagles, it scored 10 because the Dolphins had a defensive touchdown. And in this game, 2 touchdowns. And I believe that's fair criticism. Like, oh, okay, when they run up against a couple of things here, they might lose a game because the offense does stall because Tyreek Hill tells you before the game, I'm going to go off for 12 catches and 250 yards. And no, they're pressing him at the line because the Chiefs are better at defense than you are. Like they're better. The Chiefs have a better defense than your defense in its present state, a little bit injured.
2 high safeties, double-team Tyreek the entire time, jam him at the line. And Tyreek was pretty smart. There was that one time that he goes in motion to find out if he's double covered. And on that reverse, he signals to Waddle, I've got 2 on me. I'm going to take 2 defenders with me. And Waddle, who was battling an injury that entire game, has a nice big gain because Tyreek Hill has some experience being used as a decoy.
I found all of that interesting, Stugotz, and then the game gets decided by a smart play down the sideline that you never see in that reckless sport, which is somebody just flipping it to somebody else. For a lateral that goes and gives.
With all that said, though, Dan, the Dolphins still had plenty of chances to win that game in the second half.
No criticism for how they handled that final drive because it was pretty poor.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Tua looks rattled because he takes his eye off the snap.
Well, he wasn't even lined up. It didn't look from the camera angles like he was even lined up behind the center.
He looked a little rattled in the moment. 45,000 strong.
You guys are going to do that, though? We're going to make...
I mean, there's not a lot of criticisms that you can have for this Miami Dolphins team right now, and it's a very valid one when you look at their schedule. Their losses are to good teams, and if they consider themselves better than those other teams, you have to be concerned because all you have are the results.
Right where you want to be. This is the time to lose those games.
Yep.
Better to lose them now than the playoffs. That's what I always say.
Got to get hot at the right time.
You listening, The Guardian?